Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second edition of the Bus Drivers Route podcast with your host, me, Brian Cohen. I have to say there's already 2 more interviews than I ever expected to get, so everything's cake from here. In the first edition, I spoke with Averey from Real World Portland about everything that happened so far up to that point and what's been going on in her life. So if you missed that, I'll put a link to it in the description box below, so check that out. Today, my guest is Anastasia, a.k.a. Bird, again from Real World Portland, and we discussed what happened in the Bird-aster from last night and her relationships with all the other roommates. I came away from our discussion with a newfound respect for her after everything she had to put up with. Before I hit play, let me just give a quick plug for myself. So you can follow me on Twitter, @BusDriversRoute, and go to my blog, busdriversroute.com. Now new and improved without that pesky block spot in its name. I'm a proud owner of my own URL. All right, enough backstory. Let's get straight to my discussion with Anastasia. Here we go. Last night was obviously a very tumultuous episode for you. So what was kind of your feelings going, what was going to happen?
It was a very emotional episode for me. It was an episode that I knew was coming and that I had been anticipating nervously for months. My family and friends knew it was going to be a rough one for me, and I definitely I was watching with one eye out of my covers. It was a rough night for the Bird.
So I know you went to Twitter a little bit to kind of explain some of the backstory that went into everything that happened between you and Mark. So can you kind of give any more details about anything you want to share about what actually happened?
Yeah, I mean, there was a backstory with this whole thing, and it was that at the time, something I refused to show and something I refused to talk about on the show was that before I left, I had found out that my boyfriend was a substance abuser, and it wasn't alcohol, it was something else. And that's purely the reason that I was upset in this situation. I wanted him to be healthy, and I wanted him to have help and to do good things with his life. And then he came out there and drank so much, and knowing what I know, that's a lethal combination between what he was doing aside from the drinking, mixing that with the alcohol. It could be potentially deadly. It could be dangerous. I was genuinely worried about him as a person and a human being. And that was my whole thing where I was laying in bed with him. I was trying to tell him, like, you cannot do this. And I was trying to hint to him that I knew what was going on and I was disappointed without actually saying that he had a problem on television because I didn't want to reveal that. And it was rough. The whole situation was rough, and I'm very glad to say that he, after the show, Mark did get himself help, and he's been almost, I think, August he'll be a year sober, and I'm
That's
very
fantastic.
proud of him for that. I don't have a relationship with him. Unfortunately, he didn't treat me the way that I deserved, but I do astoundedly respect him for finally getting himself help and being sober and happy and healthy, and I think it's the best thing that he could have done for himself.
Did any of the other roommates know about the backstory while this was going on or after, or was it all just kind of revealed tonight?
Absolutely none of the roommates knew what was going on with what I was really upset with. I refused to talk to them about it. I refused to tell anybody about it because I knew it would be on television, and I didn't want to do that to him at the time. I thought it would be throwing him under the bus, and it wasn't my place to do so. Now with this, I feel like given the situation and the fact that he has gotten himself help, I feel like it's an okay thing to talk about because I want people who are in his situation or in my situation to hear me, and I don't want anybody to ever feel the turmoil and torment that him and I had felt with each other and with our separate situations. And I want people, obviously substance abuse is a huge problem in America, and people deal with it every day. People hide it in so many ways that you wouldn't even know that they have an issue. And I want people like that to learn from this and get help. And yeah, but nobody in the house knew. I took it to my grave. That was a big thing. I did tell a couple roommates after the show had ended and like texting and on the phone, I had talked about it, and they had a better understanding of what was going on, and it kind of made a lot more sense to them after that. Yeah.
Mhm. So, how close were you to actually going home with Mark and leaving? Were you about to leave? Was Jordan the one who really talked you out of it, or was it kind of something you came up with on your own?
Well, what you don't know is that, like, this whole thing was actually, like, a 4-day ordeal. It's not like in our episode where I'm like, I'm going home, and then 20 minutes later I'm like, I'm staying. It was,
right.
It was something that I had just argued with myself over and over about what was the right thing to do. Should I go home? Should I stay? Should I go home? Should I stay? And I thought about it for days. I was stressed out. I was crying. It was a terrible, like, tormenting thing for me, because I felt like I needed to help this person. I needed to fix this person, and they needed me, and I felt like I needed to go. And in the same respect, I thought that it was very selfish of somebody to put their problems on me and ask me, you know, to leave a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for selfish reasons just because you want me home. Because, you know, it wasn't that he wanted me home because he needed help. It was like he just wanted me home. He wanted me home. And I remained with the stance that I love you, I care about you, but, you know, it's really unfair to ask this of me, and I'm going to have to stay. And it really was the talk with Jordan that spoke to me, and not only because I was very vulnerable, given that I was holding this weight and this big secret that nobody knew about, and then to hear Jordan say, like, I don't think you should go, and the way he looked at me and said it, it really, it sunk home to me. I think he thought I was throwing away a wonderful opportunity for somebody who didn't really deserve me, and I thought that was, it spoke monuments to me when that happened, and that was probably my turning point to where I had been thinking about it. I had been thinking, like, I don't know if this is the right thing to do, but when he said that to me, it hit home.
Did you know about the kind of mass apology spree that kind of sparked when people thought you were going home between, you know, Averey and Nia and then Jessica and Averey? Did you know about all that, or was discovering it, watching it last night the first time you saw that?
I knew they all apologized. I guess the thing with me in that house is I felt like I was never heard. I felt like nobody listened to me. Nobody wanted to take my advice. Nobody wanted to sit down and get to know me the way that I tried to sit down and get to know everyone else. And that was, and partially that's me being extremely overly sensitive. I do think sometimes that I, you know, overreact to situations, and I think, you know, people, I guess I have a different idea of loyalty and friendship. And so I thought that people in that house did not hear me. And I think after watching this episode and thinking about kind of the timing with everything and the way everyone was thinking about me leaving and how stressed out I was, I guess I was wrong. I guess people were listening to me more than I knew, and more than they knew, because I had always thought like my advice was falling on deaf ears throughout this whole thing. But it was very touching for me to see that. That end scene where Johnny's like, "You're definitely the root of all goodness here." I felt really amazing watching that in that episode, because that's what I wanted to hear. You know, the whole time I was out there, I wanted some sort of reassurance that, you know, we care about you, Bird. You're a good person, and we appreciate you. And I'm glad I got to see that. Yeah.
That's good. So kind of transitioning away from the darker drama, I guess, was a couple weeks ago with the whole conflict with Jessica at the motocross and everything. So can you kind of shed a little more light onto what kind of happened there and what led to all that?
Yeah. So this is editing at its prime, more or less, because Jessica had been bothering me for weeks up until this point. I had a very love-hate relationship with Jessica. Looking back in hindsight, I feel like I took things way too personally, and I think she was trying to be like a little sister, and it was that kind of annoyance. But throughout the show, I mean, everybody in the house had called her out one time. And Marlon called her a prima donna. Jordan called her out. I called her out and said, like, I feel like I talk to you and you're picking your nails, and then you want to talk to me for 30 minutes about what's going on with you and Tyler, but you don't want to listen to me. And I thought I had extreme frustration with Jessica because I thought she was selfish with the way that she was handling situations, and I needed a break from that. And and the thing that you don't see is that I had addressed this situation previously on the show, and so this episode makes it look like it really came out of nowhere when really I was struggling with how I felt about her for months. And I can see to where it looks like me and Averey are being mean girls, but I mean the truth of the matter was, when Jessica was around, nobody could get a word in. It really, I wanted to get to know Averey. Averey wanted to get to know me, and she wanted to talk to me about some personal things. That was a big part of it. She wanted just to talk to me. And it's hard to do that because Jessica can be I don't think, she doesn't mean it. She just can be very overbearing sometimes with, going on with stories for like an hour and stuff. And we didn't want to have to deal with that. But the whole like motocross thing, that was we had hung out with her the whole time during that motocross thing. We sat with her on the bench. We talked to her. I made a compliment to her about how amazing it is that she can get up on the bike and do that, and I actually gave her props, and I was like, wow, that's really, really cool. And none of that is shown, but they do take little clips of moments when Averey and I were together and make it appear like we're leaving her out, which in that situation, in the lunch situation and then in the other situation, we were leaving her out. I will admit that with 100% honesty. We wanted time alone. That's really what it was. But with the motocross thing, that was just it was so overdone and overdramatic and
I mean, it would make sense that you want time alone. I mean, Averey and Johnny are probably together a lot of the time, and you work with Jessica all the time. So, I mean, it didn't really make sense when Jessica felt kind of left out when you just, you never really hang out with Averey. So it would make sense that you would want at least a few hours together.
And I also felt like I had explained that to her in the yogurt cart. There's like a scene where she's like, I think everybody should hang out as a group and with each other. And I explained that to her, and I said, listen, I think it's really special that Averey wants to spend time with you because she's always with Johnny. And I said that to her, and I had a conversation with her about it. And so the fact that then it still was an ongoing issue, like this is such an issue, I was just kind of like, I was quiet about the whole thing because I was just like, I explained myself about the situation. I told you, like, what's going on, and I just didn't feel like it had to be. I mean, she could have said to us, like, I'm kind of hurt that you don't want to spend time with us and blah, 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 initially or whatever. And, I might have taken it differently, but just because I had already been irritated with her, and it was like we had planned to stay home, first of all, and everyone else had planned to go out. And so we didn't even think we'd even have to tell Jessica no. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't even have that in our mind, like we're gonna be like, no, you can't stay with us. We literally were like dressed in sweatpants, and everybody else was in club attire going out. We didn't even think we'd run into this situation. And like for me, I'm very non-confrontational. I don't like hurting people, and so it really wasn't like that. I didn't want to be real with Jessica. It was that I felt like I had told her how I felt about her already, and I also I didn't want to just. It's very hard for me. It takes a lot for me to come right out and say, I don't want to hang out with you. You're bothering me. It's annoying me, because I feel like that's hurtful. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I felt stuck in that situation.
So you had actually one of the more unique positions during the one of the big fights of the season with Jordan and Nia, being the only one awake and sober and seeing the whole thing. So what's kind of your perspective on that whole fight, and even just Jordan and Nia together and their whole dynamic?
My perspective on the fight is that both people made extremely bad choices and extremely bad decisions, and both people are to blame. I felt very, very bad for Jordan, because I felt like the house was isolating him at the time, and I wanted everyone to get to know each other. Sorry, someone was beeping on my phone. I wanted everyone to get to know each other, and it upset me that two people because I felt like personally they were so similar that was partially the reason why they couldn't mend things together, because they were both so stubborn. Neither one wanted to apologize. Neither one wanted to say they were wrong or admit they did anything wrong. And I thought the whole thing was a mess. I mean, you will never hear me like say insults and horrible things like that to people in that way, because I just think it's so wrong, and it's wrong for not only them, but just it's bad karma in general. Like, I don't think you should treat people like that. At the least, you should be like, come sit down and be like, listen, I have a fucking problem with you. This is why. You know, at the least, give them a chance to talk. Give the other person a chance to talk. And it was sad for me. The whole situation was stressful and sad.
Yeah, it was definitely a little uncomfortable to watch some parts, but it was good having you almost as like an objective observer giving the commentary, so that was enjoyable for the viewer at least. But so one of the more heartwarming moments happened a couple weeks ago when Jordan opened up to you about, you know, his past and how he even contemplated suicide at one point. So did you guys have that type of close relationship? Because we didn't really get to see much of that so far, that he would come to you to kind of talk to all this about.
No, we didn't have that close of a relationship like that. We had made up from our initial like first episode fight or whatever that was. We had made up, but we were very just kind of like walking around the house, cordial to each other. We weren't on a super friendly basis at that point. And I was the thing that you won't see and that nobody really knows is that I was in my interviews crying and talking about how much Jordan reminds me of my father and how much I desperately wanted to get to know him and understand him and make a connection with him, because I felt like no one else was trying to do that. And I did. I saw a lot of good in Jordan, more than I think a lot of viewers are even going to understand, and even Jordan doesn't even know the stuff that I've talked about him. It actually was, my relationship with Jordan was very emotional for me, because he does remind me of my father in so many ways, and so it was kind of like sometimes I really wanted to punch him in the face, and then other times I just wanted to understand him and get to know him and wanted him to care about me. Yeah. And so when I saw this situation and just how isolated and alone he felt, and I've been in that situation to where I felt like I had no friends in the house, and I was like, you know what, somebody has to give him a chance. Somebody has to give him a shot. And I know he's sensitive under all the craziness that you see and the know-it-allness, and I gave him that chance, and I still remember to this day when I was walking through the bathroom and I said, hey, do you want to go get lunch sometime this week or something? And his face was just so, it was really touching. He was very surprised, and me as well. And then it happened, and I think he knew my intentions were good, and he trusted me.
So when you're involved in something like that with Jordan, or even like one of the big fights or something like that, do you ever think to yourself, oh, this is definitely going to be a moment that's going to be shown, so let me make sure I do X, Y, or Z? Or is it all just kind of instinctual?
No, it's all very genuine. Obviously, if that were the case, I would have put a lot more makeup on and made myself look better. I mean, there's some thoughts in me that I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking? But, yeah, no, you get to a point there where you're just like, you don't even, the cameras have been around you so much that you're just going through the motions, you know? Yeah. It's not like that. We did used to joke, like, we used to joke after, like, a fight would happen or something, and we'd be like, oh, my God, I look so ratchet. This is definitely going on television. But no one, I don't think anyone consciously planned, you know.
Well, I might have one person who might, but I guess maybe we'll disagree on that.
I don't know. I think the jury agrees with you on that one, but.
Yeah. So one of the relationships, really haven't seen you much with Johnny at all this year. So I was wondering if you could talk about your relationship with him and even with Averey as well.
I think they're wonderful people. I think Johnny and Averey are beautiful, really kind, fun-spirited. Just they're lovers. They're just lovers completely, and it was only destined the fact that they would end up together on the show. And I really do. I support them 100% with their relationship, and I mean they're still together, and so it's amazing in my opinion. I think it's wonderful, and my relationship with both of them was fun. It was cutesy. We all, we'd go out, or like I'd be joking. Me and Johnny joked a lot on the show, which you don't see because we both kind of had like a really goofy, and same with Averey. Sorry, super goofy personalities, just kind of like letting it all hang out. So we had a lot of fun moments together, and they made me laugh constantly, and yeah.
That's definitely needed in this type of environment. So.
Yeah,
nice
absolutely. You need that comic relief when you're listening to people fighting for hours.
Yeah. So what's been the reaction for you kind of when you're out to dinner or just out in a bar or whatever, or even on Twitter? What's kind of been the reaction that you've seen for you at least?
The people that come up to me usually shake my hand and tell me thank you for being a level-headed person on the show and being real. I get a lot of comments that I'm one of the realest, people that they've seen on the show, which to me is an extreme compliment because I'm very insecure about myself. I'm always worried about like the decisions I'm making and what I'm doing and how I'm affecting other people, and to the point where it's a flaw sometimes. And so it's an extreme compliment when I hear that from people, and to hear it consistently, it shocks me to the point where I almost feel like uncomfortable, like, no, because I'm a human being too, and trust me, like I have my moments like everybody else. Like, I mean, I get hysterical, I have flip outs, I just like every single other human being, I do that. But I think what viewers see about me is what really basically what I live my life by, and that is that I'm all heart. Like every decision I make is based on heart, and I don't filter that through my brain, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes you need to think with your brain too and not your heart, but unfortunately for me, I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I'm happy that people appreciate that. But I mean, don't put me on a stepping like a pedestal, because who knows? I could upset you next week. We don't know.
Well, I'll reiterate this sentiment that I think you are definitely one of the most real ones on the show. And I think what you said about, you have these breakdowns and everything, that I think that's actually what adds to the fact that makes you real. It seems like all your reactions are natural. That's kind of what I think everyone appreciates about you that we've seen so far, that you are kind of just a real person having real emotions and real problems on a reality show. So to reiterate, I think I definitely agree with everything that you've been hearing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I do.
So so now I hear you have an album that's going to be coming out shortly. Is that correct?
I do. I have an album coming out. I'm excited about it. It's actually, I worked with a producer who we worked with in the studio when we were filming in Portland. And I'm not sure if they'll show it on the show or not because, they edit things, whatever. But we met this awesome producer in Portland. His name's Infinite Rax. And actually, Marlon and I worked very closely with him, and he's taken really good care of us. And we both have a lot of music coming out. I have my album. And actually, Marlon will be rapping on, like, two of my tracks on my album, which is absolutely cool. I think fans of Marlon and I can get a kick out of that. And it should be on iTunes within the next couple weeks. My single, which is called Lost Your Mind, will be dropping Monday, I believe. And that's like a really fun sort of, Marlon's not on that one, but it's a really fun track about not being treated poorly and it's very pro-female, I'm not going to lie. But not all the music is like that. I just felt that with this episode, it would be the best single for me to come out with first.
Yeah. All right, well, I really appreciate you coming on. Before you go, why don't you plug your Twitter account, because I absolutely love your handle.
It's so awkward trying to tell people this, too. Okay, my Twitter is @Queen, QUEEN, Bird, BIRD, Ness, NESS, @Queen Birdness.
Great. All right. Well, hopefully we'll get you up to 10,000 followers soon then, because I follow you on Twitter. You're a great follow, so looking forward to more of what's been a great season. So I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much.
Thanks for taking the time to talk to me.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye.
All right, bye.
There it is. The second edition of the Bus Drivers Are Out podcast is in the books. Hope you all walked away feeling the same way about Brett as I did. Just a lot of respect for what you dealt with. Before this comes to an end, let me just remind you to follow me on Twitter at BusDriversAreOut and go to my blog, busdriversareout.com. And if you missed my first interview with Averey, just look in the description box below for the link. All right, that'll wrap things up here. Hope you all keep coming back. Until next time, have a good one.